So, good morning everyone. I know you were expecting Dave Stark up here, the Steve Martin of the housing industry. So you just have to wait a little bit because he's kindly given me about 7 minutes to share with you a little something about our real estate program, community sponsor program at PPIE. So yeah, I don't play bass and I don't play mandolin, but I am the warm-up act. So just drink your coffee, eat your food, and let me share a few things. So I'm wondering if this has ever happened to you. A client family moves into Pleasanton, or really any community around our area, and they are so excited to live the Leave It to Beaver life, and they've paid a lot of money to be here. And then they find out your child can't go to their neighborhood school. And they're going to be getting up in the morning and driving because their carpool is going to the neighborhood school. So while we are a destination town, not all of our schools are destination schools. And honestly, there are some gaps between the sites, and that's where PPIE comes in. We have a community sponsor program for our real estate partners, and a few of them are in the room today, Debbie Zentner and Anna Rotolo, and they are two of our 5 who joined us last year. That includes Julia Murtaugh with Ellen Pinnell, Deanna Amario and Liz Venema, Amario Venema Homes, and Perry and Tian Victoria with Renetti and Company. And we really appreciate them. So I wanted to give a little shout out. God, this is so hard to do. Can you tell I don't do this for a living? So anyway, many of you already support your neighborhood schools, which is great. Your clients move in and you give a donation to your schools, and that goes a long way. But with PPIE, you can touch every school and express to them in that way that you support the entire school district. As a donor partner, you come in at one of our lowest donor levels, which is $500 a year, and you receive not only the same exposure as other companies that give $1,000 and more a year, but you also get a dedicated website page on our website that has a live link listing. You guys are the best resource that new families, new residents, and existing residents have to what's really happening currently in our community. I know what's happening in the schools, but that's really just a small part of it. So this is a way to do something that's valuable to you. They log on to our site, they explore everything, and they can link directly to yours. And really, all I can say is I hope that you will talk with those who have already joined us, follow their lead, become one of our community partners. I have information on the back, including our annual report, the forms, also my business cards are back there as well. So I want to thank you all for your time, and I know the real floor show is about to begin. Thank you.
All right. You know the man that everybody wants to hear from. Mr. David Stark, if you would make your way up. I'm sorry, Dave, that's all the time we have for you. Thanks for coming.
Happy holidays. It's good to be back. My favorite holiday is coming up on Monday. Anybody know what Monday is?
Monday.
No, it's not the local government relations committee meeting, but that's always a fun thing. Monday, December 21st is the winter solstice. Do you know what happens on Tuesday, December 22nd? Days start getting longer. Yes. So for someone that gets in a swimming pool at 5 o'clock in the morning a few times a week, a longer day is always a good thing. So let's talk about what has happened so far this year. And the big takeaway for me is, when do you know that you're in the middle of a trend? And I think that what's happened this year is evidence that we're in the middle of a trend, and we can pretty much make some. Was that for me? Sorry. Can I talk now? Okay, Chris Scoville, my man is in the back. He's my clicker. Let's give it up for Chris. So the big story in this trend stuff that I'm talking about really deals with inventory. So Chris, if we can rock it one more time. Here is this year so far, and what's notable about this year is if you were from Mars and you came down and visited Earth just this year and looked at this slide, which is Actually, all of the East Bay, I've done some aggregation, something new for me, aggregating. Turns out that it doesn't put hair on your palm, so I'm going to do some more aggregating. So what these different lines represent, 880 corridor, West Contra Costa, La Miranda, Tri-Valley, and Delta. And it's the same geography we've been using in our East Bay Real Estate Weather Report, so I thought I'd have some fun with it here today. So if you were from Mars and you looked at this, you'd say, looks sort of like a standard real estate year. There's less inventory at the beginning of the year, there's less inventory at the end of the year. What's the big deal? Well, there is something interesting. There's only one thing interesting about this slide. And Chris, if you could poke at a key, what's interesting about this slide is how much later in the year our markets peaked. You would typically expect there to be more inventory before the selling season really kicked in, and it happened in September. So the takeaway here, and what's interesting is that it happened in all of our markets in September. And we've got some very different geography represented here. Of course, La Miranda is the smallest because it's only 3 communities and there's about 4 homes for sale in that region. And they're all expensive. But what's interesting is that it was the same for all of our markets. So the takeaway here is, I think sellers are finally understanding that homes are selling for a lot of money, and golly, maybe I can put my home on the market. Maybe I won't be upside down. Maybe I won't be upside down after all. So it's interesting, that's the only thing interesting about this slide. So pay no attention. You guys want to see a slide that's actually interesting, that's got some valuable information? Okay, Chris, let's go to something interesting. So here we are. We're going to go back to 2008 and take a look at the number of single-family detached homes that were on the market. And here's where we start to get into trend information. And as I mentioned earlier, when do you know that you're in the middle of a trend? When do you know when things have really calmed down? Well, Chris, if you could, I think after 4 years, you pretty much figure out that we're in a trend. So, big drop in inventory 2008, 2009. You guys know about that. You know what's happening in the market. You know what's happening in the financial world. Things were steady for a couple of years. Another big drop, 11 to 12. So, here's I think it's safe to make this conclusion. Chris, if you could poke it one more time, that on average during this 4-year period, there's been about 830 units on the market per year, specifically in Pleasanton. And if you're curious about what that average is for the other communities, I'd be happy to share that with you as well. But in Pleasanton, going back to 2012, there's been about 830 units on the market. And that's, some fluctuation here and there, but that's been the average. Now, do yourself a favor, make a mental snapshot of that 830 units a year. When we get to sales activity, we're going to talk about the delta between units on the market and actual sales. So, is that interesting?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, more interesting than the previous slide. The previous slide was whatever. But, I think that's kind of the new normal. All the residential construction is happening here in Pleasanton. I think that we all know it's all high density, and most of that high density construction is actually going to be apartments. I talked to you about that when I was here earlier this year. And when I say apartments, not built on condo maps. Built as apartments, will be apartments forever and ever, amen. Sorry about the biblical reference. I mean, there's a reading in the Bible about high density development. I'm not sure which one it is. But the takeaway here is, with that little comment about high density development, is if you're talking about single family detached, and I know I've said this before, what you see is what you get. If you're following what's happening at Lund Ranch, the decision on those 50 high-end homes has been continued once again. So the supply of single-family detached homes in Pleasanton, California is essentially fixed. What you see is what you get. And what we've seen for the last 4 years is about 830 units listed for sale year to year to year to year. Okay?
Great.
Excellent. Will's good? We ready to go, Will?
Yeah.
Okay. Chris, let's go to the next slide. So, what does this mean for sales prices? Chris, poke it once again, please, if you would. So here's what looks like a pretty boring chart. All right, it's again those aggregated geographies: 880 corridor, West Cocoa, La Miranda, Tri-Valley, Delta. It's boring if you like to see interesting shapes where things move around. Yeah, La Miranda had a big jump up there, April, May, June, and a big correction between May and June. It's not very exciting to look at until you start adding numbers. So in the Tri-Valley, we started the year with a median sales price for that Tri-Valley corridor, 809, And so far, as of November, we're at 850. Now that's an aggregation of all the communities. And I'm doing this for a couple of reasons. Actually, I'm just really doing this for one reason. I get questions a lot about, hey, what's going on in the East Bay? Can you give me a report on the entire East Bay market? I'm always a little nervous about giving people aggregations for the entire East Bay market for one reason, because it's meaningless. But I put this up there. If you do need this kind of information, if you do need to have a higher level look at things, I can provide that for you. Typically, I like to just stick with individual communities, but yes, I will aggregate. Chris, let's go on to something that's more meaningful. So here we are, going back to 2003. These are the specific communities along the 680 corridor in the Tri-Valley. Whoa! So I want to thank you guys for coming out this year. It's always been really nice to come and talk with you. What's going to happen in 2016? Whoa, there. So here we are. I'm going to highlight Pleasanton. I'm going to give you 3 watershed moments. First watershed, 2005, was at the top of the market way back then. We topped out with a median sales price for single-family detached at $850. The bottom of the market, as you all know, if you've been in business for a while, bottom of the market 2009, a paltry $685. The question that many of your clients are asking, have we recovered? Year to date, so this is year to date, an aggregation of the 11 months that we have data for. In Pleasanton, our median price was $950. Now you know that there have been a few months in this year where we've been north of $1 million for median price, but if you look at the entire year, so if we're comparing apples to apples to apples, yeah, we've recovered to the tune of $100,000 more than we were at the last top of the market. And it's pretty much the same for the other markets in the Tri-Valley as well. Not only have we recovered, but in many cases we've exceeded where we were at that last top of the market. And as you all remember, that last top of the market was based on a wacky financing. And the wacky financing is gone. So, from terms of what do you tell your clients, is this sustainable? Well, the fundamentals are sustainable. But let's take another look at the same period. Chris, could you indulge me by poking at a button? He's always so indulgent, and I love that. Give it up for Chris Gola, by the way. He plays music for us. Here's the same period, and instead of tracking the median sales price, we're tracking year-to-year percentage change. And this is the real big takeaway for your clients. As you know, we were negative a couple of years to year, 2007 to 8, 8 to 9, rebound in 2010, dead cat bounce 10 to 11, and then starting in 2012, most of our communities went positive. So, the question is, can we pump more air into this market? What's going to happen in the future? Well, dig this. Year to year, Pleasanton, 12 to 13, up 15%. 13 to 14, up 8%. So that percentage change was cut by about half. And then year to year so far, 14 to 15, about 4%. So, are prices going up? Yeah. Are they going up as dramatically as they were in the past? No. No. So if the trend continues, fixed inventory, strong economy, quality schools, where's Susan? Give it up for Susan, okay? By the way, if you want your head to explode, have someone explain to you how schools are funded in the state of California. Be prepared with some Formula 409 and some paper towels, because there's going to be bits of head all over everywhere, because your head will explode. Sorry about the gross image, but it's true. It is so wacky how schools are funded, and that's why we need foundations to, get money out of Sacramento to fund why these prices happen. It's a big deal. So Susan, thank you so much. And anything you can do for PPIE. Hey, maybe you got a rock and roll band, go do a benefit show for them, just saying. That might work, maybe. So, going back to, is this sustainable? We're going to talk about some factors influencing the sustainable thing. But if you look at the things that can change, supply, fixed, demand, high, the next variable is the ability for buyers to act on their desires. And we'll talk about that in a second. I'm not sure what slide's next. Let's find out. Chris? Oh, it's sales activity. Okay, we've talked about inventory, we've talked about prices. Let's see how many units are actually selling. Chris, let's rock and roll. Here we go, East Bay sales activity. What's interesting about this is, now you remember where we peaked in terms of inventory? We peaked in September. Let's find out when we peaked for actual sales activity. Chris? Boom, we peaked in June. We peaked in June, which is interesting. I think that speaks to the disconnect between buyers and sellers. When do people want to move? Summer and spring. So that's when they were in the market. And sellers, God love them, they kind of missed the boat a little bit. Just saying. So when advising your sellers as to, hey, when are people going to be buying homes? I mean, Pleasanton, of course, is a little bit is so exceptional because the demand is so high. But if you look at the aggregation, if you're into looking at aggregations, it's legal in Alameda County. Most of the sales activity was traditionally in the middle of summer. So this is interesting. Just that's kind of cool. Let's look at something really valuable. Chris, let's rock and roll. So here we are in actual sales activity. Just highlight a few things. Top of our sales activity going back 2002, 3, and 4, about 1,000 units sold every year in Pleasanton. And I think I pointed this out last time I was here. The reason that sales activity dropped so much 2005, 2008, driven in some cases by housing affordability, also driven by the fact that there weren't a whole bunch of single-family homes that were built. Well, there haven't been a whole bunch of single-family homes built in Pleasanton here. Years. I think that's the word I'm supposed to use. Years. So people bought homes and they stayed. They came and they stayed. In terms of where we've been for the last 10 years, or last, I'm sorry, 4 years, just like I did with inventory, let's figure out, have things stabilized. Chris, if you could. So when I talked about inventory, went back to 2012, well, guess what? The stable sales activity actually started in 2010. And Chris, if you could. So during this period, last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and almost 6 years, about 620 units have sold on an annual basis. So remember that mental snapshot I asked you to take? What was the number of units on the market per year? 830. 830. So if you're doing the math, you're probably wondering, well, Mr. Suit Man that comes and talks to us and makes jokes every once in a while, what happened to those 200 units of inventory? What happened to them? What happened? Where did they go? Well, they're there. I mean, President-elect Ops, they're right there. They're there. Whether it's churning, something comes off the market, then comes back on the market, or it didn't sell. But the takeaway here is, okay, there is going to be this delta between how many homes you're seeing on the market and how many homes you're selling. You're going to see that. And if you got smart clients, maybe they're out there working at that place in the Livermore that you've heard about. Maybe they're doing this kind of math, and they've been on the internet, they think they're real estate experts. The bottom line is, we're selling about 600 units a year, which compared to where we were at the top of the market, when things were crazy, that's not a lot of supply. That's not a lot of supply. Now, I'm highlighting Pleasanton because we're at the Valley Real Estate Network, but if you look at the other communities, there are some differences, particularly in Dublin, where they do build houses. Those homes get sold as well. Livermore, larger market, a little bit more inventory as well, and they do a little bit of construction in Livermore as well. As a matter of fact, there might be somebody in this room that purchased a newly built unit in Livermore. I don't know. Maybe she's in this room. Maybe she isn't. I don't know. What's up, Aaron? How you doing? Okay. Is this helpful at all to see that we're kind of in a, after 4 years? Yeah, I think that's kind of where we are. Chris, let's rock and roll. So, talked about variables. What can change? Let me obviously look at my watch to see how I'm doing on time. Okay, I think I'm right. So what can change? Supply can change. Demand can change. What influences demand? Purchaser's income, job security, ability to qualify for purchase financing. Now you're going to go to all these holiday parties and your smart cousin is going to say, I got to tell you, I couldn't buy a house these days because there's all this money coming from overseas. I can't compete with all that cash. Has anyone ever heard that?
No.
No? Will's never heard that. Are you just being contrary?
Yes.
Okay.
No.
So here's what you do. Do you want something to just shove right in the face of that schmarmy cousin? Who wants that?
Yeah.
Who wants that ammo? All right, here comes schmarmy cousin ammo right now. Chris? So, we took a look at all of the single-family detached home transactions in Pleasanton year to date and divided that universe into 3 sales price categories. Thank you, Debbie, for the insight on that one. And basically, you've got 3 price categories that we've presented here. Sales prices south of 417 to 625.5, and then 625.01 and up. Okay, so you with me so far? The universe is single-family detached homes sold in Pleasanton, divided into these price ranges, and then how were they financed? You've got 5 categories: VA, other, FHA, conventional, and cash. You're probably wondering, well, what's other? Other isn't VA, FHA, conventional, or cash. Okay, just get that out of the way. Yeah. So, what's that? Hard money loans. Yes. Okay, so here's how people are financing their purchases in Pleasanton. In the 417 range, 100% of the single-family homes that sold for 417 or less, that was conventional financing. That was 1 unit, by the way. In the 417 to 625.5 range, it's evenly split, 33 between FHA, conventional, and cash. By the way, it was 1 unit in each of those categories as well. Okay, isn't this hilarious? Okay, so the bulk of the sales activity obviously happened in the 625 and up range, and dig this, about, I think it's 14% of those transactions were indeed cash. Yeah. So you can tell your cousin, yeah, there is cash in the market. 14% of the market. Where's the eggnog? Okay? The vast majority of these transactions in the single-family market are being financed by conventional loans. So, when Janet Yellen says something, listen. Why? Because people are going to qualify for it. They got to qualify for loans. Do we know what's going to happen to interest rates next year? Here's what I heard. We don't know, but you got to pay attention. And again, going back to that cousin, or more importantly, going back to that client who says, I can't compete. I don't have cash. Well, you don't necessarily need to have cash. Right, Wendy? Okay. This is single-family detached. What about condos? Anybody want to see condos?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Chris, you know what they want. Let's give it to them. Here's condos. Little different picture. Little different picture. At the investment side of the condo range, the lower end of the market where you'd think the investor would be going crazy, 5% of those transactions. Interesting, yes?
Yes.
20% though in the 417 and 625 range, and 30%, yeah, interesting. Is this helpful, valuable at all? And has your cousin now walked away? So this is the anti-cousin. And you know what? I'm sure that you all have lovely cousins, but just in case you don't, you give them this. Thank you guys so much for the opportunity to come and chat with you today. It was an interesting year in real estate 2015. I think because of what the Fed's doing, 2016 is going to be even more interesting. If you have questions about what's happening in real estate, particularly new development in this town, yeah, you can talk to your neighbor who may or may not know what they're talking about. Never hesitate to give me a call. We are keeping our finger on the pulse of new developments. If you're curious about what the products are going to be, there have even been some changes in some of the new stuff coming along, where they've changed tenure for rental ownership. Give me a call. How do you get in touch with me? Chris, here's how you do it. Oh, wait, quickly, one more step, a couple more things. Chris, real quick. This is our stats report that we put out once a month, if you're not familiar with it. It's got real estate, pun intended, for your business card. Where do you find this report that we do for single-family detached all over the East Bay? Chris, rock and roll one more time. It's a 3-clicker. You go to www.base.org. You click on resources and then housing statistics. It will bring up this page. You click on the community that you want. If you're curious about Castro Valley or some of the unincorporated areas, you can find a dot over there, I believe, for Castro Valley. Also, you can find a link to our real estate weather report video, and starting next year, we will be adding these presentation slides to our website. So, after every presentation, we'll pop them up here. In case you don't want to go to the website, you can always do this. One more, Chris. Call me, and don't be afraid, you can call me. Or you can email me, david@base.org. Happy holidays, happy solstice.